No?
Morning, everyone. We're here to show off our game Triumph. I'll be giving you guys an intro, then I'll hand it off to Chris. We'll go to the tile engine, Cassandra will do the UI, Sherry will do the game mechanics, and TJ will talk about the AI. So the main idea of what Triumph is, as we talked about earlier, is it's just going to be a turn-based strategy game that's based on a tiled map. The tiles are square. You're going to be assigned random teams, and those teams will be randomly positioned on the map, which we'll talk about in a second. We're going to have outside influences such as weather, and the object of the game is just to completely destroy the other team. So how is it structured? In the game, we have 6 different factions, and each faction has 6 different units, and each of those units have different stats and different abilities. Play will begin randomly, where you're going to go ahead and be randomly assigned to one of the factions. The AI will be assigned to one of the factions, and your units will actually be randomly placed, but in a localized region. One person will start up in one corner of the map, the other person will start in the other corner of the map, and battle will take place in the center usually. And then the turns actually proceed based on the unit speed. So each individual unit has their own speed attribute, and so it's not going to be like faction 1 goes, faction 2 goes. It's just whichever unit's the fastest gets to go first. And finally, play continues until you destroy the team or the AI destroys you, and then you have the option to quit the game or play again, and you will be assigned a different faction. The AI will be assigned a different faction, so that way you can get a taste of everything. So how is a turn made up in Triumph? Well, pretty much what happens is you're only limited by your MP and AP. You can do anything in any order you want, but pretty much every unit is going to have MP, which is their movement points, and AP, which is going to be their attack ability points, and you use that for your abilities as well as your attack. So you can go ahead and move in, attack, and then move away. Just move your units, just attack your units. It's up to you. Or you could just go ahead and end your turn and not move your unit at all. And then abilities, though, pretty much are just going to be powerful attacks as opposed to just your regular attacks. You can also heal units as well as put debuffs on them, such as decrement their MP or AP. So how did we? Here's an example of how we went ahead and created units, abilities, and also factions. And this is how we did it. We just went ahead and made simple methods that would read in from text files all the information about those units or abilities or factions. And then we use that information to just initialize all the objects. So here's an example of how we made the units. It's pretty much, you have their name, all their stats, where we're getting their sprite from, and then their abilities here. And this allows us for us to extend easily. We just type in more units and their stats, and you have new units in the game. Finally, I want to go ahead and talk to you about the weather system. Pretty much what happens is each unit has a specific affinity, like fire or ice. We'll talk about that in a second. And what happens is we're going to have a different weather that's randomly generated for so many turns. And your console will say, the weather is now sunny, or the weather is now rainy for this many turns. And now go ahead and grant the corresponding units a buff. There are no debuffs. So for an example is, if it's snowy out, which would be, that's number right there, all the ice units will go ahead and get an attack bonus. And that's going to last for so many turns. We made sure that it wasn't just going to be a turn-by-turn basis, so you can actually somewhat have some type of strategy and position certain units that would have be advantageous in that situation. Finally, we don't have any change actually in the environment because this is a bird's eye view, and we didn't want to get too much stuff going on, like have clouds in your way and everything. The UI, we were making sure to spread that out, not as is. So all we have is we're just going to have those little symbols there. Displayed up top, and you'll be able to see that when we demo the game. So now I'm going to hand it over to Chris to talk about the tile engine.
Alright everyone, so the tile engine makes up the backbone of the game, and in our game it consists of multiple parts. So the tile engine is primarily held within the tile map, and the tile map is essentially a 2D grid that the entire game takes place on. This map contains a few elements. It contains all the graphic layers, which are called just tile layers, the collision layer, which contains the collision information, and the unit layer, which includes the unit locations. The tile map is also responsible for all the pathfinding in the game. It does all the calculations and passes it on to the units for them to actually make moves and stuff. And like the abilities and units, the tile layers and collision layers and unit layers are all stored as ASCII text files, so they're very easy to customize and update. So first, I'll talk about the tile layers. Basically, the layout of the tile layer is just a 2D array of integers, of indexes to the texture files of the individual tiles. And so basically, there's the ability to set transparency and stuff. And then you can stack multiple layers together to make a full map. So as you can see here, the checkerboard would be just the blank map. And then you would add a base layer, which would be the grass and the dirt patches. And then you would add a road on top of that. And then you would add objects such as trees and rocks on top of that, and it would render together to make the map. The invisible layers are the ones that actually are doing the work. The other layers are just pictures. But the two layers, the collision layer and the unit layer, both provide the actual information for the game to run. So the collision layer is a 2D Boolean array, same size as all the other layouts. Basically, it just says which tiles are traversable and which ones are not. And this is, of course, very important for pathfinding. The unit layer stores an integer index of each of the units. Each unit has its own index that's unique to it, so that basically it identifies all the units on the map. When the unit is dead, it actually negates it, so basically all that their dead information is stored in the unit layer as well, just so that it's easily accessible. And this is important for both pathfinding. Dead units, even if they are enemies, you can walk through them. You can't stop on top of them, so it's very important that you can check to see, is the unit alive, is the unit an ally, is the unit an enemy, or is the square empty? It's also important for targeting. Basically, the cursor checks the unit layer to see what index is on it, and then searches for the player or the unit assigned to that index. And that returns the target information. So, using all of this is our map, the full game map for our game. It's a 30 by 30 grid, basically a forest path. There are 4 tile layers. There's the base layer, there's the road layer, there's a transition layer between the road and the base layer, and then there are the trees and rocks. There's over 30 plus textures that make up this map. And then basically all of this is handled by both the camera, which controls what tiles are actually in the viewport, and the cursor also gets data from both the collision layer and the unit layer. The pathfinding that we implemented in this game is A-star. It pulls in information from the collision and the units. It checks to see if the tile that it's looking through for the path, if it's empty, or if it can pass through. The can pass method basically checks to see if it's an ally. You can walk through that same tile. You can't stop on the tile, but you can at least walk through it. It also checks to see if there's a dead unit there that is also passable. And then it also takes into account empty considerations from the unit. So now I'm going to hand it off to Cassandra to talk about the UI.
As you can guess, my job was basically to take everything that these guys told me we needed to show on the game so that people knew what they were doing and kind of make it pretty. So this became my creed. It's made up of a whole bunch of errors that we ran into as we were progressing. My favorite is I will not run A-star on every update. Made that mistake. It made for wonderful slow motion. So I provided an absurd amount of checks to make sure things were running right. I used a lot of enums. They actually made fun of me at first because I had like 4 enums in my UI class. So I'm just going to take you through some of the screens. First, we have our splash screen. It's also basically what the pause screen is, but you see the map through it on the pause screen. Then we have our controls list and our affinities, so that you can figure out who's strong against what. Most of what I used was the spritebatch.draw with various colored textures and spritebatch.draw string. So lots of rectangles and text. These are actually the in-game screens. As you can see, there's a lot of information that we needed to show. At the top of each of these screens, you can see that we've got the clock and the weather. That actually is how much longer that weather will last in the game. Then we've got our current unit information and our target unit information. So current unit is whoever started this, and target is whoever that blue box, that's our cursor. Whoever is under that blue box shows up in that corner. If no one's under that blue box, it's blank. These, if you bring your cursor down to the bottom part of the map, these actually jump up here and the clock jumps down here. So you can always see what you're doing. Over here we have a console. As you can see, that's not visible here. There's a magic hide button. It's the H. So if you get sick of looking at that console, hit H and it will go away. That will also bounce over here. The menu also bounces up to the top as you move around. It's kind of fun. We moved in a circle so that I could prove to them that it worked. This is an example of what the abilities list looks like. You can scroll through that using W and S, and it shows you the cost and the range of all of your abilities, and gives a short description of what they do. Any questions about the UI? Pretty basic. Okay, then I'm going to pass it off to Sharon for game mechanics.
Thank you. So the mechanics of this game involve unit stats, attacking, abilities, affinities, and the weather. So the unit stats, they have these primary stats: HP, movement points, weapon points, ability points, weapon attack, which is how hard they hit with their normal attack, weapon defense, which is how much damage reduction they have when they get attacked, magic power, which is how strong their abilities hit, magic resist, how much magic damage resistance they have, and then speed, which is how fast they're able to move, how soon their turn comes, their hit chance, their critical hit chance, and then their range, which is how far they can attack. So attacking. I stole this formula from Final Fantasy Tactics. So basically it's the attacker's weapon attack minus 0.5 the defender's weapon defense. And then critical hits do an extra 50% of damage, and all units have some chance to dodge. And then you apply like a 10% variance, so it's not always the same damage being displayed. So it looks like it's not just a static thing. And then abilities, they work just like attacks, except for they have a multiplier. So some abilities, they might do 2 times the damage of a regular attack. And then magic attacking abilities, they use the same formula as attacking, except for you replace weapon attack with magic power and weapon defense with magic resist. So, and the other abilities do a flat amount like heals, decrementing AP and MP. They all heal a static amount, or decrement by a certain amount and stuns last a certain amount of turns. It doesn't depend on the unit stats at all. So then there are affinities. So affinities grant units bonus damage when attacking things they're strong against, and they do reduce damage against affinities they're weak against. So the bonuses are cyclic. So it goes fire is greater than ice, is greater than wind, is greater than rock, it's greater than lightning, it's greater than wind? No, water. Okay. And then it also works backwards. So fire attacks, a unit with fire affinity attacks something with ice, it'll do bonus damage. But if it attacks something that's water, it'll do less damage. And then we have holy and dark, which have their own little thing going on. They're both strong against each other. And then it's a 15% damage boost, attacking something you're strong against, and 15% damage reduction if you're attacking something you're weak against. And now I'll pass it to TJ for the AI.
All right. So finally, we get to the end. The way that we have our game set up is you control the first faction, and an AI player will control the second faction. The AI is controlled by essentially a finite state machine. You can see here it's kind of crazy, but it's really simple if you just follow it around. At the beginning of each turn, it's going to check and see if it has any attack points. If it has attack points, it's going to choose a target. So once it chooses a target, it uses some function inside of it, inside the AI itself, to determine who it wants to attack. If I'm already in range of that person, I'll just attack them. Otherwise, I need to move towards the person. After I move, if I'm in range now, I can attack them. Otherwise, that means that I used all my movement points and I'm still not close enough. So the only thing I can still do is end my turn. Otherwise, if you're attacking and you still have any attack points left, you want to go back around and try to attack them again and use up all of your attack points. Once all of your attack points are used up, you'll come down here, but if you still have movement points, you don't want to stay right next to your enemy where you're really exposed. So the AI will actually move away and try to get back towards a safer location. The way that it does that is each faction has what is considered a rally point. The rally point is just a point close to where the faction started out in the map, and whenever it tries to move away to try to get back to a safer location, it moves towards this rally point. If you look back on the finite state machine, you see that the choose target, it's just an event, or it's just a single state. The actual method for choosing the target is just to use the Java terminology, is just a method. So if you wanted to subclass, I mean this is C# obviously, but I'm using Java terminology because everyone's probably more familiar with that. But you could subclass the AI and change just the way that it chooses targets, the way that it chooses how it moves, and the way that it chooses which attack to use in this state. And you can have completely different AI using the exact same structure without having to change pretty much anything at all. Another thing that I didn't quite get to, but I wanted to implement, it's kind of half there at the moment, is that when you create the AI, you pass in four weights. And these weights are a damage weight, a distance weight, a defensive weight, and a status effects weight. And basically what this means is these are how the AI is going to choose its abilities. Because right now it's just using kind of a random effect, it's just choosing the ability, which ability to use at random. But it's potentially possible to say that maybe I want this particular AI, if it has a high damage weight, it might favor abilities that have higher damage over other abilities. Or if I have a high distance weight, I might favor abilities that are going to let me stay further away from my enemy that have longer ranged attacks. Or if I have a defensive ability, I might try to always make sure that all my characters are well healed and always use the kind of defensive abilities better. And the status effects could be, say, I have a stun ability, I'm going to use that all the time because I really like status effects. So this is one of the things that I would have liked to have gotten to, but we didn't quite get around to getting that implemented. So that's basically.
Oh, are you doing questions?
Yes,
Okay.
questions.
Did you get to implement like element-based attacks? Like if your AI is fire, he will try to attack ice.
Currently the AI is not.
Just random?
It's just random. The AI.
What did you have out of the box as far as the tile engine, and what did you build specifically for this project?
The tile engine is based off of a tutorial online, but we handwrote everything. There's no starter kits or anything other than X and A.
If there's no other questions, I guess we can go in and go ahead and show you guys the demo. So.
Okay, so yeah, I guess we can be answering questions as we go on. But we'll start the game, it automatically starts up, and what was it? Okay. Like we said, timer goes. We got 8 turns while it's sunny. You can read everything here from the console. We can hit H to stall it down or toss it back up. So it's just WASD to move around, and then enter is to select, and back is to go backwards. I mean, if we wanted to see the controls, we could escape and our control is to C, and it tells you everything there. And then hitting A will show you all the affinities. So that way, if you want to look it up, you have it. Okay. So we'll go back and resume the game. So I want to move, and I'll toss them down there. And then right now, I'll just end my turn. Takes a second at first just to get all the obviously units around.
Those delays you're seeing there in the AI movement is actually not it thinking. We originally had it where it would just go immediately as soon as it got there, and it looked really jumpy and it just kind of didn't turn out well. So we actually added in a 1 second delay of a thinking delay for the AI. It makes it look a little neater when they move like that.
Does movement cost based on the terrain and cost to build a road?
No, we don't have that yet.
We'll get there eventually. Unfortunately, he got paired with one of the slower factions, so.
It wouldn't be too hard to change it. We were going to have a background selection screen. But for, what was it, the game demo, we figured it would be better if we could just go ahead and have it randomly assigned so everyone could just try everything.
Are the trees on site?
No.
Okay.
Anyone recognize where the sounds are from?
I can recognize about half of them.
Okay, so, now we're actually going to attack. I mean, we can go ahead and we can attack, or we can just use the ability. So, we'll use the ability first, we call it up, and then you have the one ability there. It'll tell you the AP and the range. You can scroll down, just using, WASD, and it'll tell you information about that. We tried to be a little dumb about the abilities, because it was late at night usually. And okay, so what was it? Now, I mean, just to attack, it'll highlight who you can attack, and then you have to scroll over to select them. And then if I want to use an ability on him, like I'll use that to assassin his energy. I can use it on him or him. Okay, and then I still have one more action point. Then now obviously I used up all my action points, so you can't use an attack or use an ability, but I can still move, so I'll move them over there and then end my turn. And it looks like the weather has changed, obviously by now.
What abilities does he have?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a couple times. Okay, was there anything else?
Autonomic range stuff.
Oh, okay. So, what was it? Obviously, this guy's a mudslinger. He's going to be a range unit. You only have, if it's ranged, melee, or mage. The little staff was for magic. The sword was for melee, and the bow and arrow, the bow is for range. Range is going to have 3 tiles away. Mage is going to have 2 tiles away, and melee is just going to be your simple 1 tile away. But there are some attacks that will actually be further distance. Like melee character might actually have an ability that allows you to hit 2 away, even though their base attack's only 1.
Will some of the abilities, if you're closer, have a higher effect?
Currently not right now, but I mean we could easily do that.
Anything anyone else wants to say? Yes.
I'm really confused who's on whose team.
Blue is the player, red is the
It was
AI.
worse. It was worse when everyone had the same.
Originally, the active player was always blue and the target was always red. That got connects.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can like bring the cursor over them.
Yeah, like,
Oh, okay.
you're blue and then they're gonna be in red.
Okay. Cool. So you guys look at the target. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, when you scroll over, it won't change.
Do you guys have some way of actually seeing what the mid stats are so you know that, hey, that guy who's a healer, he's not meant to go up and hit them for a while?
Well, we were going to, but we didn't have time to implement like a stat screen, so we went with the little icons, so you can tell that like they're melee. So if you see a staff, you don't want to go up and attack people.
Are the casters all healers?
No,
Okay.
it was just that one.
So just never run up a melee range.
No, you're gonna do 1 damage anyways, because you're just whacking people with your staff.
Hey, I know some people with staff who are gonna really hurt you.
Not these guys.
Anything else?
You guys not like vowels for the word range?
What?
The word range.
No, I did not like vowels at that point.
It's not really saving that much space. It's only
In my defense, I implemented that at 2 a.m. Shorter was better at that point.
Anything else?
Any others? How do we thank her?